FanDuel is making things tough on us for tonight because straight up, I think Alek Manoah is the number one pitcher for tonight's slate. I was excited to talk about him this morning in the solo shot. Thought he had a good matchup, electric debut, and then you pull up the player pool, and he is the highest salaried guy on FanDuel for today. I still think he's number one, but let's talk about it. Let's dive in, get you set for this Wednesday night slate, and answer your questions live on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. Welcome on in to the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A right here on all those channels via FanDuel. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to answer your questions live on air for the next 25 minutes to get you set for tonight's main slate of MLB DFS. As always, we have this show every weekday at 4 p.m. Eastern to FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. And no matter where you are watching, you can get those questions in. If you're watching on YouTube, put them in the chat section. If you're watching on Twitch, put it in chat there as well. Also on Facebook. So no matter where you're watching this, get those questions in. We'll answer them live here on air to get you set for what should be a pretty fun slate for tonight. As mentioned, Alek Manoah, the number one pitcher on FanDuel for today, checking in at $10,000. And I think that's fair because if we look at what he did in his first start, so his debut, he was facing off against the Yankees. He looked really good. 6 shutout innings. He had 7 walks, 2 hits allowed, 2 walks allowed. That was against the Yankees. 11.4% swinging strike rate. In AAA, 41% strikeout rate, 17.5% swinging strike rate. We pull up the numbers here for the Marlins, what they've done this year versus righties, and it looks like a good matchup. 86 WRC plus, a low ISO, the lowest on the slate, 26% strikeout rate, not a lot of walks. So I have a pretty high opinion of Manoah overall. And you put him in a plus matchup at home, low temperatures in Buffalo for today at 67 degrees. I think that's a pretty good combination. So although it might feel erratic, wild, stupid, dumb to be high on a guy off of his debut, I do feel like Manoah is the number one starter for today. And you look at the other pitchers here, you're not seeing a lot of high strikeout numbers for these starters. The one guy you do see is someone that Alvin just asked about over on YouTube. He asked about Shane McClanahan. McClanahan does have a high strikeout rate. So if we were doing this just based off strikeout rate, I'd be in. The reason I can't get to McClanahan is that his pitch count is very low. In the 6 starts, he has made 59, 63, 80, 75, 67, and 63. And I'm pretty sure that is a conscious thing the Rays are doing. So I'm not expecting the pitch count to increase. So if I'm projecting pitches from McClanahan, I'm probably around 70 or so. That's not quite enough. Manoah went 88 in his first start, but he went 94 in one of his AAA starts. So I think that his pitch count should be high enough where we can feel good about him. So McClanahan, from a rate perspective, makes sense because of the strikeouts, but I think the pitch count will be too low for me to get to him in DFS. Alvin asked about the Dodgers. They are facing off against Carlos Martinez. I think that they're in play because Martinez, low strikeout rate, lets up a lot of balls in play. The reason they were not near the top of my list today is that Martinez is getting a lot of ground balls right now. Let's pull up his player page over on FanGraphs. I didn't link to it like a big dummy because I don't want to search for it. This is way too many steps for me. Very lazy. But let's go over here to Martinez and check out what he's been doing this year. You're going to see a pretty low fly ball rate for Martinez. So that's kind of the main detraction for me with the Dodgers. The good thing is he is letting up some hard contact. A 42% hard hit rate is above average. League average, I think 39%. Let me look here for sure. It is 39.4% the league average for hard hit rate versus pitchers. The fly ball rate is 36%. Martinez, above average hard hit rates, below average fly ball rates. So it's okay. I think that they're an option for sure, but they're not a high priority option. Also, he's getting good results. And at some point, results do matter too. Let's see what direction the results have been going. Against Arizona, 3 earned runs, 2 against the Cubs, 5 against Colorado at home, 8 shutout innings against Pittsburgh. Yeah, I would say he's had some pretty easy matchups recently, so maybe you do want to go. But for me personally, I'm okay being lower on the Dodgers because Martinez is very likely to keep them on the ground. Let's go over to Facebook and talk to Sean. How about Manaea in a large field GPP? Also, what is your favorite low popularity stack? So for Manaea, I do think that he is in play for tournaments for today. And a lot of it's something we discussed in the solo shot this morning, where you look at these numbers and you see not a big strikeout guy, 24% overall this year across 11 starts, 3.71 skill interactive ERA. That's fine, but it's not high upside. However, he's faced a lot of tough teams. I actually misspoke this morning. I said that he had made 5 of his 11 starts against the top 4 teams in strikeout rate versus lefties. It's actually 6 out of 11. I missed one of his starts against the Angels. So more than half his starts have come against teams that are very, very low strikeout teams versus lefties. The Mariners obviously are not that, a 28% strikeout rate versus lefties this year. I would expect Buehler and Manoah to suck up a large percentage of the popularity for today. So I think that Manoah is a pretty good tournament option. If you're in a large field GPP, you need points. You need a lot of upside out of your pitcher. But I do think that Manoah can get that. Pitch count's been fine. 91, 98, 94 his past 3 starts. He should get strikeouts for today. So Manoah is someone I would be very okay using in a large field tournament. And I would say, I think it is just those 3, Buehler, Manoah, and Manoah for tonight for me, because they're the 3 guys I could see having a good enough ceiling to justify that. Mateo, how do you like Baltimore lefty bats versus Dobnak? Dobnak is a big ground ball guy. This is only his 2 outings that he's had. It's a 20% fly ball rate, but that dates back to last year too. If you look at Dobnak last year, a lot of ground balls. He did get kind of banged around last week, and he let up some earned runs. But if we're looking for like individual high upside games from a single person, you kind of need long balls, and Dobnak's probably not going to be the guy to give those up. Last year, a 62% ground ball rate, 51% this year. I think it's been a little bit better than that in his 2 trips through the rotation. So Baltimore is okay because they're probably going to get base runners, but I don't see a high upside game from individual bats on that team just because Dobnak does such a good job of keeping opposing bats on the ground. Michael, do you see Texas, Washington, and Minnesota in that order as your top 3 stacks? Texas is facing Antonio Senzatela. I like them a lot. I think that they will be number 1 for me, and I don't see myself changing that. Senzatela allows a lot of balls in play, lets us some hard contact. He does get ground balls, but it's at Coors Field. Ground balls lead to balls in play. That can lead to a lot of runs at Coors, so that's a different situation for me than with the Orioles facing Dobnak. So the Rangers definitively number 1 for me. The second thing Michael asked about actually goes back to the second question Sean asked on Facebook that I forgot. Sorry, Sean. You asked about a low popularity stack for a GPP. The Nationals are that team, the team that I think will go overlooked for today, but should not. They're facing Drew Smyly, who has a kind of the profile you want for stacking. You see here, there's a lot of green in the profile on the hitting tab. 20% strikeout rate, that's not too bad. It doesn't walk too many guys, but lets up a lot of hard contact and a lot of fly balls. You see here, the Nationals, not a super big power team versus lefties, but they do get the job done with a 112 WRC+. Good temperature for today. Decent park factor. So I would say the Nationals are a good team if you want to find a team that should go overlooked. Their team total is a lot lower than what you got for a lot of other teams. And we've talked about this before. I don't like using bookmaker data to dictate where I'm going to go, but it does illustrate to us where other people likely go. And if you look at the bookmaker data for today, you're going to see that the Nationals aren't going to be very high in the stacking list. Their implied total has gone up. It was 4.38 this morning, I think. It's 4.51 now, but I still would not expect them to be near the top of the popularity stack. So, Sean, if you're looking for a low rostered stack for GPPs, I think that Washington is that team. Michael, I do still like them quite a bit. I would put the Twins above them straight up, so flip-flopping there, partly because I got a bit soured by lack of power that the Nationals have shown this year versus lefties. Thinking about it more, the Twins have shown power against righties. Facing Matt Harvey lets up a lot of base runners, isn't super restrictive with the balls in play, the contact against him. So I would put the Twins up to 2, move the Nationals down to 3, and they're pretty much on par with the Braves. The Braves a good stack too, facing John Lester. They have hit for a lot of power this year against lefties. Lester lets up a lot of balls in play. So I would say I feel very good putting the Rangers 1. Then I would say that the Nationals, Twins, and Braves all in a cluster together as the number 2 stack for today. If I had to rank them, it's probably Twins, Braves, Nationals. But if you're looking for someone or a team that will go overlooked, I would say the Nationals grade out really, really well there. Alvin, do you rank stacks differently for single entry, and why or why not? I think that there is additional interest for me when I'm thinking about single entry and trying to identify the second tier stacks. So the stacks that people may like, but don't like enough to put as their top 2 stacks of the day. Because you think about it this way. Let's say you're playing single entry and it's the only lineup you're doing for the entire day. you love the Twins. You don't want to miss out on the Twins because they're facing Matt Harvey. How could they fail? I got to get the Twins in there. You're not going to go to the Nationals in that situation. So, Alvin, the way that I think about it for stacking is, what are the second-tier stacks that I like a decent amount but don't put near the top of my list? I want to identify the ones that won't be priorities for others, but I do like for stacking. If the range of outcomes is still very high, they've got a good ceiling, that's what I want for single entry. The teams that might go overlooked just because people gravitate towards the true top-end options due to FOMO for a single lineup. So to me, that's the way I think of it. Think about, okay, what are the top overall stacks? That's what you want to think about right now. Then what are the stacks just a tiny tier below that? And I think that Washington does likely settle in there based on their implied total for tonight. So I think Washington is a good single entry stack for today, Alvin, because I wouldn't expect them to be a priority for a lot of people on this slate. Let's go back to Facebook and talk to DJ. Do I start Bellinger with him just coming off the injured list, stack Tampa Bay against Jordan Montgomery, and Flexen Pivetta or Drew Smiley? Not Smiley. He scares me. Flexen, no. Pivetta, no. I would say none of the above. I can't get to any of them personally. I would say if you're looking for a pitcher between them, pass. Like if it's for season long, just pass. I can't get there. I think that Manaea is the lowest I'll go for pitching for today if we're talking DFS. So I would set my floor as being Manaea. As far as Bellinger facing Martinez, I think that's fine. Got the night off last night. Should be good to go. It was a leg injury, broke his leg. So it's not an oblique, not a wrist, not anything like that. So I think that we should be good to go with Bellinger. I'm okay with him. Not looking to stack Tampa Bay against Jordan Montgomery because he does a pretty good job of limiting hard contact. You see the hard hit rate here is lower. Not a big, huge fly ball guy. Doesn't let up a lot of base runners. So I'm not really into Tampa Bay. I do like Bellinger. Okay with that. But I would shy away from the Rays and shy away from the pitchers discussed there. Going back to YouTube and talking to Diffuse between Ryan Zimmerman and Starlin Castro, who would you prefer to use to round out a full Nat stack? Is the Nationals lineup up? It wasn't when I refreshed last time, but let's refresh it one more time and see. Still no Nationals. If Ryan Zimmerman is in there, I am starting him because the power has been there for Zimmerman this year, facing a lefty. And I think that we're talking about guys who can realistically generate a good ceiling game for you. It's going to be Zimmerman over Starlin Castro for me. 275 ISO this year. He's got a 9.1% barrel rate. This is overall, not just against lefties, but it does help to see that he's hitting the ball pretty well. As far as Starlin Castro, let's pull up the numbers here for him versus lefties. He's better against lefties and righties. But if I'm talking about like the guys I'm jamming in for a stack, I'd rather have Zimmerman. But let's just check here on Castro to make sure I'm not totally writing him off. 55 plate appearances. He has an 038 ISO. This is, just this year. 038 ISO. No. Not a ton of hard contact or fly balls. I would say it's definitely going to be Zimmerman for me between those two guys rounding out his stack. Producer. Oh, it's Cal. What's up, Cal? The Mets stack worked out yesterday for Cal. Good. I'm glad that worked out for you, Cal. I was not on the Mets, but I'm glad that it worked out for you. I think you're a Mets fan, so that helps as well. Michael, I know you mentioned Garcia and Solak from Texas. Which other Rangers bats do you like? Willie Calhoun is someone. I was building a dummy lineup this morning. Dummy lineup is like a placeholder lineup that I put in there to I just want to tinker around with stuff in the morning. I tend to fill lineups pretty late, but sometimes in the morning if I get bored, not that my bosses should be listening to this, hopefully they're not. I would never get bored during work, but I was tinkering around, hypothetically, with a dummy lineup this morning, and Calhoun wound up being a guy I liked a lot just because he fit what I needed from a positional perspective, meshed well with my other stack. Think he should be pretty solid. I think he's $3,700 for today. Let's pull up the Rangers numbers versus righties. And again, we do want to favor, I don't know if it favors the right word, but we should bump up righties here today because of the split sense that Taylor has. So that's good for Solak, good for Kiner Falefa, but Kiner Falefa, not the biggest power guy, does get steals, and you can bump up steals as well. Can bump up steals at Coors because BABIP is higher. It's a bigger outfield and stuff like that. So Willie Calhoun, good batted ball numbers versus righties this year. Not the best power numbers yet, but I feel like they will get there. Joey Gallo, still there. I would say if I'm ranking between the lefties of Lowe, Gallo, and Calhoun, I'd probably go Calhoun, then Lowe, then Gallo. The reason I like Calhoun a lot is because he doesn't strike out that much, puts the ball in play. That's pretty valuable at Coors Field. So I think that's the way I'd rank those guys. But Garcia, for me, definitely number one. And then Nick Solak, probably two, but he's kind of in that chunk with those guys. Garcia, definitely the priority within a Rangers stack for today. Tony, Ben Simmons over 8.5 boards. I don't know, man. I'm bad at that. Just being honest with you, I'm terrible at basketball, so I would go elsewhere. I don't want to lead you astray. I'm nervous. Sorry, Tony. Good luck tonight, though. I hope it goes well for you. Alvin, Nationals and Braves rank higher as stacks than Rockies for you, correct? Yes, I think that they do for a couple of reasons. The first one is the Rockies suck. Second one is that Jordan Lyles has been getting better recently. The numbers I have here are over his past 6 starts with more curveballs. If you look at Baseball Savant and check out Lyles' numbers on his curveball this year, he gets more weak contact with that, but also gets more whiffs. And if you look at his numbers in these 6 starts, you'll see the strikeout rate has gone up to 23%. His batted ball numbers are still not great, but a 32% fly ball rate is like 15 percentage points lower than it was before he increased his curveball usage. So better batted ball numbers, facing a really bad team, higher strikeout rates. The Rockies are still an option. I still think that they're in play, but I'm fine deprioritizing them because they are so bad and because Lyles is trending up. I think that's the reason for me being lower on the Rockies. And yes, I would put them behind the Braves and the Nationals. DJ likes Baltimore based on what they did last night. I'm talking to Sean as far as a low popularity GPP stack. The Orioles facing Randy Dobnak again. Big ground ball rate. I said no to using the Orioles against Michael Pineda last night, and they did very well, so I could look stupid again. But, the data says I'm not going to be very high on them because Dobnak does such a good job of limiting ground balls. Let's go to Twitch and talk to Yosh. Hello, Yosh. Any love for the Houston Bats? Houston is facing Nick Pivetta. Pivetta does let up a lot of fly balls. That's a good thing for Houston. He gets strikeouts. They don't really strike out that much. So it doesn't matter too much. But the big thing here is that he does limit hard contact. I wouldn't talk you out of Houston. Yosh, if your process led you to Houston, I'm not going to say no because they are a good team. They don't strike out. Pivetta will let up fly balls, but they're not going to be very high on my list just because I am a little bit worried about Pivetta being a decent overall pitcher and limiting hard contact against him. Let's go back to Michael. Aside from Kirilloff and Larnack, who are your favorite Twins? Let's see if the Twins lineup is out yet. Nelson Cruz will be in there, as far as my favorite guys for today. So definitely Cruz, probably Josh Donaldson. Let's pull up the Twins numbers versus righties this year. Hopefully Mitch Garver's okay. Rough night he won't play, obviously, but rough night for him last night. Hopefully he's okay. Overall, we're thinking of you, Mitch. Jorge Polanco against righties this year, just a 120 ISO, but decent hard contact rate, decent fly ball rates. Not opposed to Polanco. 3 stolen bases for him, too. That's at least intriguing, I would say. Josh Donaldson versus righties, 176 ISO, 13 or 14% strikeout rates, good batted ball numbers. I can get behind that. So Sano, let's check out the strikeout numbers for Sano yesterday because he was trending in a bad direction. We dug into it yesterday, but hey, these things can change pretty quickly based on a single game. He was facing a lefty last night, so we don't want to overreact, but low strikeout rate for him there. Let's check out the plate discipline numbers for Sano, and he made a decent amount of contact. So I would say Sano's an option. Prefer him more so versus lefties than righties, but he is in there. He's someone you could potentially use. So if I am building out a twin stack with Manoah, I'm going to go with Kirilloff and Larnack first because I like the salaries on them. We're going to go Kirilloff. We're going to go Larnack. And we're going to go Larnack's listed as day-to-day, but he played last night. He got, I think, 2 plate appearances, so he's good to go. Cruz, $3,200. And then I'm going to go with Donaldson as the third option. If we do that, you are at $3,325 left. You're going to have to find a punting option if you want to stack the Rangers with that, but you can make that work. And then maybe Sano. What's Sano's salary? $2,600. You could use him over Donaldson if you want to save a little bit more, if you want to have more flexibility to use the Rangers for today. Let's see here. Kyle, do you ever use a 3-team stack? Thinking about mixing and matching with Washington, Atlanta, and Minnesota. I do use them. If you look at the data, sometimes a 4-2-2 stack does work decently well. I think the overall thing I would say is make sure you have a 4-player stack because the data, like Kenyatta Storin ran a full piece on it. This for us last year at numberFire, and I did a podcast on it. We got data from FanDuel that showed which stacking combinations were most successful. And like every top combination involved a 4-player stack. So I would say, Kyle, if you want to do that, I would go with a 4-player stack and then 2 2-player stacks. Because that way, you're not digging into the 4th best player for both stacks. You're getting the top 2 guys from 2 of them, stuff like that. So I would say a 4-2-2 stack, fine. I'm on board with it. I prefer a 4-4 or 4-3-1, but a 4-2-2 is definitely okay as well. I would not talk you out of the process. The process behind that is still fine. I would say overall minimizing one-offs is the key. So a 4-2-2 is fine by me. And I think that if you're looking at Washington, Atlanta, Minnesota, that's probably where I'd push you is like a 4-2-2 type situation there. Alvin, did you make the table on Fangraphs? Oh, so you're talking about this one, I assume? Yes. So what you do, Alvin, is you go down to, this is the way you get here is you go to the team stats and click on batting numbers. And then you'll see each team's batting numbers overall this year. You'll click active roster. Whoopsies. I didn't click team stats. I said I clicked team stats and I didn't. Okay, click active roster. That's going to give you the overall numbers. Then if you want to make your own custom leaderboard, scroll down here and you can basically select which stats you want to use. So like if you don't want BABIP, I don't want BABIP in there. Just get rid of it. You can get rid of all these and then take over the ones you want to use. For me, the custom leaderboards I have, actually this one is outdated. I actually made a new one today. I have moved hard hit rate over here and put ISO over here because ISO tends to stabilize around like 80 or so plate appearances. We're past that now. So I've decided to reprioritize ISO over hard hit rate. Hard hit rate's kind of fluky too. So it's both prioritizing ISO and deprioritizing hard hit rate. So my new custom one, which we'll have up tomorrow because I forgot to change it out on this computer for today, is WRC plus, ISO, fly ball rate, strikeout rate, walk rate, and then hard hit rate is here. Ground ball rate, stolen bases, so that I can see the numbers I care most about. And outside of WRC plus, the numbers that stabilize most quickly and see them at a glance to kind of tell who's hitting the ball hard, who's striking out, who's drawing walks, who's getting stolen bases, stuff like that. I want to see the numbers I care about most quickly. But again, the way to do that, custom leaderboards on Fangraphs, and I can't give enough love to that. It's such a cool tool. Makes things really easy if you want to find numbers you care about in a really quick fashion. Let's go back over to Facebook and talk to DJ. Jazz Chisholm, Tommy Edman, Mike Brusso, Isan Diaz for second base. So Chisholm and Diaz are both facing Manoah. I actually don't think that Diaz is in there. I was looking at their lineup earlier. He is. He's batting 7th. Idiot. Sorry, my bad. So I'm the idiot here. So DJ, I would probably shy away from Chisholm and Diaz because Manoah's, I think, really good. Edman is facing Buehler. Don't like that. Brasso is facing Montgomery. He tends to leave at times for a pinch hitter. So I would, especially with Lau out, I would assume that he's probably not going to be long for that spot. So I would probably be wary of all of them, looking at other options you could turn to at second base instead. I want to see what Jorge Polanco's salary is. He is $2,800. Hopefully you can get up there. I would say that Josh Harrison is also in play at $2,800 as well. As far as other guys you could turn to, Freddie Galvis is 27. I know I mentioned not being super high on Baltimore, but as a one-off, Galvis could work there. Jed Lowry's not a bad option at $2,600. I'm not a huge fan of the power. Brendan Rodgers is 25, one-off at Coors Field. That works too. So I would try to find a way to get a little bit more salary flexibility for yourself there, DJ, because you can get up to the guys like Rodgers, get up to Galvis, or get up to Harrison and Polanco. But I would say Harrison and Polanco, for me, definitely the guys I prefer there. Edman is 29, so you should be able to get Polanco. And I would say of those guys, he or Harrison would be my top guys for today. Alvin, 4-3-1, the best 3-team stack? Yeah, I think so, because a 4-3-1 is one that works if you're using, let's see what an actual example is for today, because you can't use just two teams. So if you're using a pitcher, what's a good example of that? I don't want to stack the Cardinals, or I don't want to stack the Dodgers. Let's just say you're stacking the Dodgers. You want Buehler as your pitcher, and you can't go 4-4. You have to go 4-3-1. I think that works too. So I would agree that if you're going with three teams, 4-3-1 probably slightly ahead of 4-2-2, but to me they're pretty interchangeable. I would rather have more exposure to fewer offenses, if that makes sense, because I'd rather identify two teams that go off as opposed to three. A two-team parlay more likely to hit than a three-team parlay. That's the main reason for me going a 4-3-1 or a 4-4 over a 4-2-2. But I think 4-2-2 is pretty easy to sell as well, and I'm okay with that. But preference is for a 4-4 or a 4-3-1 in terms of stacking. If it's not clear what I'm talking about there, that means 4 players from one team, 2 players from one team, and then 2 from another, or 4 players from one team, 3 from another team, and then 1 from another, 4 players from one team, 4 players from another team. That's what I mean by like 4-4, 4-3-1, 4-2-2. Hopefully that is not too nonsensical if you are brand new to MLB DFS. That is all the time that we have here for today on the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. But as always, we are back once again tomorrow. Solo Shot is at 9 a.m. and the FanDuel Fantasy Live Q&A is at 4 o'clock on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. Make sure you are subscribed there. If you're watching YouTube, hit that like button because it does help us out significantly. We appreciate those of you who have done so already. If you have additional questions for me, I am on Twitter at JimSannes, JimSannes. Big thank you to producer Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your MLB DFS lineups for tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A.